Hey everybody, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. Warbird Tube is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the Warbird movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Good evening, aviation enthusiasts, and welcome to CAF Warbird Tube for tonight. We're glad to have you with us, and on our 179th episode, that's tonight's episode, we're going to get an update on two restoration projects at Airbase Georgia, located just outside of Atlanta. And if you've been watching Warbird Tube for the past couple of years, you know that Airbase Georgia has they not only have the equipment, but they have the volunteers and the know-it-all to bring some great aircraft back into the air. We'll talk about the two restoration projects that they have going on tonight. That is the Stearman and the big P-47. Now, whether you're joining us for the first time or you're a loyal Warbird Tube fan, we are glad that you are with us tonight. If you enjoy our content, please spread the word on your favorite social media platform. Now, Warbird Tube is made possible by the Commemorative Air Force. If you'd like to find out more about CAF, our events, aircraft, the local units, or how you can join the fun, just visit our website, commemorativeairforce.org. Now, as you're watching tonight, you may have some questions about the restorations and how Airbase Georgia is able to put this all together. Just type those in the chat box. We'll try to answer them either during the presentation or before we sign off tonight. So joining us from Airbase Georgia, Jeff Clark and Randy Hawkins. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Hey, Steve.
Jeff, tell us a little about yourself and your role at the Airbase.
Well, I have been a member of Airbase Georgia since the early 2000s, and over the course of that time, I've been lucky enough to fly a few different airplanes. I've been a sponsor on the LT6 that we have since 2010. In 2021, I got to sponsor the SBD, and last year I got to start flying Red Nose. And it's been all very exciting, but to be honest, I get as much enjoyment flying my own Stearman as flying those airplanes, and being a guy that has a Stearman, that kind of makes me the closest thing we have to a resident expert. So I've been helping support our Stearman restoration project.
Awesome. And Randy, welcome to the show.
Well, I joined the CAF and Airbase Georgia, which had a different name then.
Yeah.
In January of 2016, and I got right away working on our T-34, which now is a daily flyer. It was in pretty rough shape, and I knew a little bit about sheet metal from years of experience. And with that said, our maintenance officer kind of took me under arm to show me CAF world of maintenance records and this and that. And that was Bob Heath, and yep, he's still a member with us. And so he left as a maintenance officer and somehow got me to come into this position. And every time I see him, we talk about why that happened. It's a challenge. So with that, I've had a great time. Wonderful people, meet lots of people just come in to visit to see the airplanes. They bring in schools, everybody else. So I'm there a lot, and I get to meet a bunch of just great folks from all over. And Jeff has an extremely pretty Stearman. We're trying to get ours anywhere close to his. That'll be good. And so now I'm just helping teaching people, because I like to do that and have done it before, and welcoming new people, and we keep looking for more talent, which is acquiring with these airplanes. There's people coming in. I want to help on the P-47, that kind of thing. So it's been a good last few years.
I think Randy's actually selling himself a little bit short, because not only is he looking for new talent, he's actually creating new talent. Randy, you've got a background in basically teaching at Embry-Riddle, I believe, and he's been able to deploy that talent to train lots of people that have contributed in great ways to our restoration projects. And Randy, how many have gone on to get their A&P now? 3 or 4?
Yeah, 4.
Wow.
Yep, and there's a couple on the way.
That's excellent. And one of the things with Airbase Georgia being just outside of Atlanta, you have a lot of airline mechanics who retire and have expertise that kind of make their way south to Peachtree City and join up with the wing. So that's a great resource you have as well.
It's kind of the reputation we have is like being the place where retired Delta mechanics get kicked out of their house by their wives and they go kill their time with us. But like I say, it's that is a big part of our success. They bring a ton of skill, and we definitely have a lot of people that fall into that category. But we have a ton of people that just like airplanes and don't have a track record with Delta and just want to help out. And we've been able to make use of a lot of that talent in very constructive ways. So Delta's been a great feeder league for us, but it's not the only source of talent. Absolutely.
And go ahead, Randy.
Can everybody see the pictures that I'm seeing of the two gals working on the fabric?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure what we got to see. Yep. Well, let's see, that's what makes it really special, because that's a daughter-mother team, and her pilot friend, husband, he also is flying our T6, and I think he's on the list for the P63. But
63,
young gal there is 16 now, and they had no knowledge about doing any of this covering work. And Ann Haley, she could teach you how to do it if you want to learn. And the other guy, he learned and got his A&P down in Williamson, helping with a youth program they have down there. And everybody's just rocking and rolling. So we got a lot of people walking in just wanting to help.
Well, and it's great not only with the aircraft, but we're going to take a look at a video here. You've got some great talent that's been able to put together not only the video, but also your social media page, Facebook. The Airbase Georgia has always got something coming up. So fans of the airbase, whether they're in the Atlanta area or around the world, can keep track of everything that's happening there, and that it really is it's a hopping spot. So let's take a look at what your team has been able to put together.
Hey, welcome back to Airbase Georgia. I'm Philip. We're talking here on the P-47 and the 12 Planes Christmas Summer Update. Dun, dun, dun. Like I said, in the middle of summer, but we want to give the volunteers and the donors a real perspective of the work we've been doing. It's been a few months since we've done an update, and we just kind of want to walk you through. The leading edges are now up, taken off. We're going to ship them off for this 12 Planes of Christmas to raise the money for that and the Air Corps. And hopefully this jet goes by, the big gasoline torch thing, we don't like those very much. All right, the jet's gone now, so we can keep talking. Those things are loud. We prefer things with, radial engines and V12s, not little blow torches that spit out the back. That's no fun. So what our guys have been doing here over the last few months are really trying to organize a lot of the parts. We got a lot of the internal components we were missing from Air Corps, a lot of the components where the stick fits in, all the stuff in the cockpit were pretty much gone. It was sold off over the years or borrowed or who knows what, but luckily Air Corps has been a great partner with us, and same with the gentleman with Dottie May. So we've got a lot of stuff from them. So we're getting ready to start working in the cockpit, assembling that. We're also having to make some parts for our machine shop, just unobtainium stuff we don't, cannot find, period. So luckily we have the drawings. We're starting to make stuff. All the parts are kind of getting analyzed, cleaned up, painted. Obviously I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of making it up and it's fun. But anyway, we're getting ready to really start assembling the airplane. And as you see, the wings are now level. And I asked our maintenance officer, why are the wings level? What do you plan on doing with this? And he goes, we found the bolts to put the wings back together, to put them on the airplane. So our goal is to have a roller here for the next few months. Have the wings on, have the gear on. To have a roller, you got to kind of have the gear on. Otherwise, it takes full power to get to the taxiway. So, but we're really making progress with the airplane, and that's thanks to y'all. We want to say thank you again to our donors, because without y'all backing us, backing our airplane, backing the commemorative Air Force, we can't do this. So we just want to say thank you. We'll get you another update here shortly. Until then, summer's coming to a close. And you know what that means? 12 Planes of Christmas 2024 edition's coming up. I have some special announcements. We'll see you later on. So here, I know we spoke earlier about getting the airplane on its gear. We're doing a lot with the gear. If you want to look down here, all new seals from Air Corps were brought in. Luckily, like I said, they're a great partner in not only for us and the P-47, but the warbird industry worldwide. They really help keep these airplanes in the air safely and meticulously. So here we're getting ready to put the gear doors on the gear, and they're just test fitting to make sure everything's right, because they all came in pieces and parts and just completely disassembled. So what our team is doing is test fitting and then putting the gear back in the wings. And once the gear's in the wings, bolt the wings on. We're gonna have a roller here in the hangar. You'll be able to see this P-47N sitting on its gear, which it hasn't done in 20 plus years. Look forward to seeing it. Hey, just give you another brief update of kind of the detail we're going through here at Airbase Georgia to restore this national treasure behind us, the P-47N. This is Tom Thompson, one of our volunteers, and we've been working on the landing lights. And you may say, why do we need a landing light? We don't fly at night, but it's really about the history. It's bringing back the piece of history the best that we can. We're all volunteers, but making the asset, making this P-47 the best we can. So we're going to ask Andy or Tom, sorry, a few questions about the P-47. And so how did you get into this airplane? What brought you to, what attracted you to it?
Well, I've been out here working on the restoration of the PT-19, and after 2 years we got that done. It's flying. We're really happy about that. Tuskeegee Airmen trainer, as you know. And so needed another project. Randy asked me to help out with the electrical. Right now these guys are doing a great job working on the wings, so kind of they're doing the exterior and I'm doing the interior, I guess, for lack of a better word.
So kind of describe the landing light, and how did you figure out, where are the drawings from? Where did you figure out how to do the wiring?
Sure.
Tell me about that.
So we have our subscription to Air Corps Aviation Library, and you can look up all the drawings there. And so they also coincidentally have the manuals. The Grimes was the name of the corporation. They have the Grimes manuals for repair and restoration of landing lights. So all the documentation was there. We just had to follow it. I've been working with another one of our A&Ps, Tony Stein. And so...
yeah, show us what you have here.
Yeah, walk us through everything.
Yeah, so obviously light, it's 600 watt light. This is the, this is the original relay that runs the light, and a cannon plug to the light. So the cannon plug's got 3 wires. It's got a extend, retract, and the light itself. And the way this works, I thought you'd be interested in the circuit. I think you're going to take a picture of the circuit. But here you can see it's extended out, so it hangs under the wing. It's right now down to about 90 degrees. It's got a motor here that runs a gear, and that will retract it back into the wing assembly itself.
So tell us about the testing of light. How'd you test it? How'd you determine the motor was good?
Sure. So we have a test station at our electrical bench there, and we hooked up the 28 volt. At first it didn't work, and we had to trace down a couple things. Mostly it was these little contacts that just had white powder on them, just from years of either use or sitting in the, or was it the West Texas desert or whatever. Yeah. And so once we cleaned everything up, it worked fine, which was helpful. We didn't have to go out and get extra parts.
Well, thank you so much for walking us around and showing us part of this wonderful historic asset today. And it takes a lot of people, as you well see, to put this airplane back in the air. But don't forget, it takes you at home to do it as well. So look out for this 12 Planes for Christmas coming up. We have a major announcement in December. Somebody ended up helping us out with something, so you'll see. Well, I'm not going to give it away. You'll just have to pay attention coming up here shortly.
Next update.
For the next update.
It's been a challenge so far since you obtained the P-47, but it's amazing to see the progress that you've made. But I did notice the chalkboard that said it came in 2022 and the first flight 7/31/2028. So there's a lot of work to do with the airplane before it ever gets to the point where it might be flying.
That would be for me.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot to do, but there's a lot of little pieces, and you can't just put something together unless you have all the pieces to begin with.
Right.
So that's probably been our biggest battle, is finding this bearing or that bearing, or this little piece of an angle that it can get, whatever it might be, that didn't come with all the parts that we got when we got the thing home here. So there's a lot of things that are in various stages of assembly, and it's like, where are we going to find this? And so we have had good response from people out there in the field, and we got a couple of our guys that are pretty good part finders. They're pretty good diggers, and they know how to schmooze a little bit, I think, and things keep showing up. The guys are the ones basically there's 6 of us that are on the team right now that are continuous, and then others will come in and help out a little bit, but their schedules don't allow them to be there. But the ones that are there, they're the ones that come up with the ready time for the airplane, and they showed it to me, and I went, okay. And so we're driving in that direction, and they all got a lot of background, and they have experience on making things work, being all the airline guys. And I just kind of listen to their needs, get them parts, stay out of their way, or make compliments, or like when they say, what do you think about this? And so I'm working the airplane, but my job also requires me, I got to pay attention to 8 other airplanes. So
right.
That makes a little bit of a challenge. But the wings fuselage is in incredibly good shape, and the landing gear, after we took it apart, we didn't know what we were going to find. And those are actually healthy, and we got the seals and all we needed from Air Corps. Bearings, like for the flap, that's those pieces that I'm touching right there. Those we actually got, and they were available from Aircraft Spruce, and we would never have guessed. And I know the prices went up since 1943.
Yeah.
Talk about inflation. But it's just one piece at a time. Do it right. Get a second set of eyes, and then move on with the next piece. So it's going pretty well. With getting the avionics going, this thing had the old fabric insulation on old wires, and some of it because of the accident with the fire. A lot of that stuff, we're not even thinking about it. So replacing all the wiring in the airplane, which there is none in the airplane at this point. There was none that it was in there that wasn't in new shape. So it's a matter like Tommy, he went and pulled the whole harness out for that left wing. Now that included wiring for landing gear and position indicators and the lights and nav light, but also there's separate harness for the gun solenoids, because they're electric fired, Brownings, just like they had in the Mustang, whatever. And these were big old bundles of wires that are just horrible. So we're going to go back together. And I keep telling them, like, well, we're going to put all these wires in from the manual. I said, we're going to make it a flying airplane because all of our airplanes we try to have as a safe daily flyer. So we can make it to an air show, or we can sell a ride in a local or whatever it might be. And with that, I told him, I said, it's not going to be much more difficult than putting wiring in a Cessna 172. You know, he's got the wings, the left one is installed, just not clamped up, but it's in conduit and already in. And he's got the right ones already made, all brand new stuff. And we'll terminate it after everything's finalized. That means put the connectors on the ends. I'm sitting here in the dark, by the way, with little handheld maintenance lights all in the background. But the engine mount, it turned out we sent it up to a place that does them up in, I think it's Ames, up in Minnesota, Minneapolis area. And they were all, let's go. Yeah, send it up here. We'll get it. So it happened to correspond with our guy who's going up to Oshkosh. So one of our members, who's actually the P-51 crew chief now, Rodney Higginbotham, but he was going up and he put it in the back of his van and he took it to Oshkosh with him because the company that makes and fixes and rebuilds all the motor mounts had a booth set up at Oshkosh, and they met and they took the thing back to Minnesota with them. So it saved the trip there. So there's a lot of little things. We already have an arrangement with Garner Low Aviation, who's down the street from us on the taxiway, that's done all of our other radios at this point. We've just upgraded the whole fleet of radios, except for the T6, and that's scheduled in February because they don't have the room to get it in. But we'll put the same basic package in that's in the Mustang. So what that does, it also allows us to build financing in blocks of money for each major thing. And the tail feathers and all, they're in excellent condition. And we did take the turbocharger up to Air Corps and let them look at it because we weren't sure of its condition, and they said it's not any good. But we'll probably get it back because it's all the way in the back of the tail of the airplane. I've been trying to figure that out for weight and balance ever since we sent it up there. But we'll put it back in. We won't have an operational turbocharger, but the whole turbocharger system will be in the airplane for show and tell. Take the air shows and people can look at it. It's just gigantic. That's why the airplane's gigantic, to hold all the turbocharger system.
Yeah, it is a massive airplane, and unless you've been close to a P-47, you don't realize how big it is, especially compared to a Mustang or even the Corsair. It just is a large airframe. Tell us a little bit about how the airplane came. What was the condition of the airplane when it arrived at Airbase Georgia?
Pretty much what you saw in the trailer is what we got. So there was a lot of things, like all the cowling was pretty much destroyed with the last landing it had, and all that's up at Air Corps right now. They had just finished making a full set of cowling for Bonnie, the P-47 D model for the Dakota territories up there. So they had a good background knowledge on doing at least one, and they agreed to take this on. I don't think they've started yet, but we're in line with a whole lot of other people to get airplane parts made up there. And
sure.
that is a incredible place to go visit. Those things, that's the ejector chutes in the lower left picture for the spent cartridges from the machine guns. And the right wing skin, wing was the new old stock to replace the burnt one, which you had in your opening pictures. They didn't have the gun exit points in it. So actually the guy that's over there on the right with the drill, he made all that stuff up and custom fitted all by the drawings, and a lot of little pieces in there because each one's surrounded by little angles. And we're going to put guns in one of the wings. We haven't quite decided which. They're both in healthy shape, but we'll probably be like in the Mustang. One will be used to haul oil, lots of oil. Mustang doesn't use oil, but the Corsair does. And the other will have the full display. so we can open up the gun doors and ammo doors and let everybody see what it used to look like in real life.
How do you keep the volunteers motivated? I mean, looking at a timeline that goes out to 2028.
Whips.
Yeah. How do you keep them engaged in the project, knowing that it is a long-term project?
They are absolutely having a blast. These are they're like me. We're all the same generation. We all work together at the airline, and this is something that we all had just a passion for to do. Never really thinking that it would ever come true. So they come in just rocking and rolling every day, and they step up and do it. And they have their own private lives. I used to have a private life, but that is. But they are just phenomenal at making things come together. And sometimes it's not really apparent from the big pictures. You can see the ribs that Philip showed you in his little deal. Those ribs, they were taken out of the original left wing leading edge. At some point in this airplane's past, I have pictures of it down at Redbird on racks. Mm-hmm. But the left wing was the original, and it was all together with the gear in it and the gear doors on it. And somebody, for some reason, had to take that left leading edge off, but they didn't realize, or maybe they found out the hard way, that it's not riveted in that section between the guns and the attachment at the fuselage. It was all spot welded. So you can't get a spot weld out unless you break the spot weld, and then you can go and shoot it back together like a rivet, with rivets. What we'll do with Air Corps when they get them back to us. But they used instead of maybe a let's say an 1/8" or a 3/16 drill to take the welds out, they used 5/16 spot faces, it looks like. So the leading edge had no corrosion or dents on it. We don't even know why it was taken off. The spar itself was beautiful. So we're not sure what went on there, but that's why we have Air Corps bending us new wings, because they're leading edges, because they're pretty elaborate. We don't have the tooling here to do it, and they've got all that and took on that challenge. Funny side note on them. So they had agreed to come down, and that's why we put the wings horizontal, because we had been working them vertical. But they agreed to come down with their specialty equipment and their knowledge people, and they were going to do a 3D scan on the right wing, which is the new old stock wing leading edge, but they wanted them horizontal to do it. Once they had the 3D scan, then they would go back up to Bemidji. I don't know if they got snow on the ground yet or not, but maybe I hope they're watching. No, they're an incredible group of people.
Yes.
And they're going to go and make us the new leading edges by doing a mirror image with the computers to produce the left wing leading edges. So I got a call day before they were coming down to do that. We were all excited. We had to crank lift the wings with the forklift and cables and things to get it to flop over. And we're all ready, and everybody's anticipating, and they were to come. And he said, I got to call Randy. We're not going to come down and do any 3D scans on that leading edge. And we were like, oh man. I said, well, why? We're crushed. And he says, well, we got the engineering staff together in a meeting about it. And once we discussed it and we started thinking, they already had all the information they needed up there. So they didn't have to come down. And the big difference in this, which you could see in those ribs, is that this is an AND. The AND had 100-gallon fuel tanks in each leading edge. Out of the 10 tanks in the whole airplane, that's where 2 of them were. So it's different than the D leading edge. And that's why it is where we are with it right now. I was worried. Go ahead, your turn.
Well, with Air Corps and what they've been able to do and their research, I almost get the feeling that doing a restoration today is somewhat easier than it may have been 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, when we didn't have the resources that we have now. When you think about being able to do research on the internet and the amount of records and things that are there, and then just Air Corps itself, it almost feels like it's getting easier to help bring these airplanes back to life.
It probably is. I can't, and you know, I'll put in another plug. You know, we have an aircraft spruce right around the corner from me.
Yep.
I thought I turned the phone off, but that was one of my members wanting something. He'll get it. I'll call him later. I finally put the phone on charger at 9:30 at night, so nobody bothered me. But where was I going? Oh, with aircraft spruce, right around, literally, you know, a 2-minute drive from the hangar for small hardware and all kinds of, and they come up with some hardware which they'll never have that, and they got it, and they're right there. So it's great. We have an account with all the airplanes with them over there, so they've been a big help to us, no matter what we're trying to keep in the air. But Air Corps has got this incredible, I'm still bragging about them, inventory program, and it's all on a computer system, and you give them a part number. That's it. All right. Eric up there, I called him, you know what I called him last time? Instead of True Blood, I called him Trudeau. I did apologize. But Eric, if you're watching this, so I'm bragging about your part system. And they go, all they need is put a part number that you're looking for. And they got everything for a Mustang now and the Stearmans. And they can tell you in a minute where it is and what box it's in and what building it's in and what shelf it's on and how many they got. It's just remarkable.
Yeah. They are a great asset to the Warbird community, and
yeah,
we can't thank them enough for everything they've been doing.
Well, and then, you know, the other guys out there that we just keep, you know, hey, you got any of these? You got any of those? And yeah, how many do you need? So we got that with Mike out in Idaho. He had wheels. We could not find wheels anywhere. He said, you want magnesium or aluminum? I said, whichever is healthier. So he sold us a pair of wheels. And we have the brakes, we got the landing gear, and the only thing we're looking for right now are the tires. Okay. We found a source that stocks them, but they're not in stock. So we run down those little wormholes and get stuck sometimes, and we'll wait. Might take a couple months, but that'll turn up.
Are there any parts that you've run across that just you can't find? And when you do, what's your go-to plan?
Well, we get a pretty good machine shop, and one of our guys took up the 3D axis CNC that we were donated a few years back. And he can go in and pull an Air Corps print, which he's done for the stick quadrant mount for the joystick. Air Corps had one that they sold us, but it was only to be used as a model because it was heavily corroded. So Rodney's already gone in. He pulled the Air Corps drawings down for the thing that clamps and allows the stick to move around. And he's pretty computer savvy guy. So instead of just throwing CNC and, you know, wasting a piece of expensive aluminum, he 3D printed it to size. And we can take the stick with the bearings on it and the pivot mount and test fit it on it. And once it's all tweaked where he wants it, then we'll put the block of aluminum in there. Because it's a thing that's, you know, this big. Yeah. And it's got two pieces that lock the bearings in for left and right and up and down. So we have a lot of machine shop help.
Oh, that's good. Richard, one of our loyal viewers, chimed in with a question, and he said what it must have been like for the ground crews to keep battle-damaged P-47s in action. Just from your experience working with the P-47, what's probably the strongest element of the airplane and maybe the weakest element of the airplane?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the structural repair manual. We have a good, clean copy of it. And coming from a structural repair background myself and the other guys, but you know, the farther you are towards the front end, the beefier stuff gets as far as metal, and it's all aluminum. But the structural repair manual spells out thicknesses and everything, and heat treats, everything for every single little part on the airplane. It's pretty amazing for the wings, wherever it might be. So duplicating those isn't really too difficult, except the leading edges requires some special bending tooling, which we just didn't have. And that's actually 3 pieces. One piece starts at the fuselage, goes out to the gun base, and then the gun base got its own, and then it goes out another piece, and there's a small tip on it, about a foot and a half long. And then, but yeah, so the one that I had, because let me tell you, and we've talked about it, we keep dreaming about it, kept saying it, and everybody's like, nah, we never could do that. We're trying to figure out a way to put a back seat in the thing, because we think that would be a rarity. We could take one of the old 3-seat side-by airline chairs and park 3 people in there side by side and strap them in, because the inside of the fuselage is just gigantic in that area. But I talked to Jeff about it too, but because he has his own engineering firm, he hasn't bragged about, but that's okay. But the SRM, you want to know about a strong area? It's a shelf right behind the pilot's seat. And it goes to the back of the cockpit area. And there's electric drive, like a little tiny chain drive garage door opener. It's 20 inches long. There's a whole bunch of repairs on battle damage all over. It'll tell you what you do, where, and how big, and what else. And it has a big caution in there. Repairs to this area must be met due to the canopy attached hold down to that track that keeps it from high speed deploying on its own, just from the aerodynamic effect of the canopy curve. And it says no modifications. So that would eliminate trying to cut a piece of that out and jam it up somehow. Anyway, I think Jeff did struggle with it, but he just went, no.
So with the 12 planes of Christmas this year, the P-47 will be one of the featured aircraft. What are you hoping to raise money for this year to put into the project?
I'm not even sure what it is at this point in my memory. It was put in a couple months ago. I think the main thing was to back up for the wheels cost and tire cost. That was a lot of money just for those. And we haven't gotten the tires yet. I mean, that was many thousands of dollars, believe it or not. We still have all the components that were up in the engine compartment area and hydraulic area and an oil tank, which isn't there. We have hydraulic tank, but we don't have an oil tank. We have a oil tank, we don't have a hydraulic tank. So we're still hunting for rare, hard to find parts, and people just don't have them. We've actually even contacted a couple of the museums to see if, what's the chances. Like the whole rudder bar assembly, rudder pedals, brakes, all that. We don't have that. So I don't know what exactly all the small items are, but right now those are some significant holdbacks that we're looking for, just to fund.
Good.
Pretty much. Oh, and fuel tank bladders is one I had asked for. I don't know whether that's going to get on the list or not. And we'll just be putting the same as the D in it, one behind the seat and one in front of the pilot, which is bigger, more fuel than the Corsair's holding with the same engine.
Well, that's good. All right. Well, we will look for that on the 12 planes of Christmas. And Jeff, you've been very, very patient, waiting to talk about your favorite airplane. Just going to roll the slides back here, but the Stearman project that is also going on is another full-blown restoration. As Randy mentioned earlier, you get the mother-daughter team that they're learning how to do fabric covering, and this is kind of an introductory restoration that you're able to bring people in who may not have very much experience or any experience at all with aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, the Stearman is kind of the other end of the spectrum from the P-47. Randy just got done talking about all the parts that you can't get for a P-47. Stearman's a little bit of a different story. I mean, I think everybody knows that after the war, you could buy Stearmans for $500. Anybody who wanted to be a crop duster would buy one of those in a BT-13 and put the 450 engine on the Stearman, and they'd have a crop duster. And because of that, it kind of got this second life, and a whole industry got built around the Stearman. And as a result, you've got companies like Dusters and Sprayers that actually was recently acquired by our friends at Air Corps. So, any part that you need is, within reason, generally available. So it hasn't been quite the same degree of struggle. But, the challenge on a Stearman is, it's got 4 wings and all the fabric covering and all of the rib stitching. I mean, every single rib has to be stitched. Randy can tell you exactly how far apart, but it's just a lot of very tedious work that needs to happen on a Stearman. None of it is particularly hard, but there's a lot of it to do. So, we've been very lucky in that we've got a lot of people who, as you say, want to use it as their introduction to how to restore airplanes. And we've got a lot of enthusiastic volunteers that are taking advantage of the opportunity to learn.
Great. Tell us a little bit about the background of this particular airplane.
So I wish I had a very compelling story to tell you. But the fact of the matter is, I don't even know how many different airplanes are composing what we're putting together right now. The fuselage, the landing gear, the wings, to be honest, the pedigree of them all is a little bit different. So if you look at the registration plate that we had, I did look it up at one point. It had a fairly unremarkable stint at, to be honest, the base closed shortly after World War II. It was someplace in Oklahoma. I can't even recall the name of it. But after that, like so many others, it was surplused after the war and, went into crop dusting and, made its way to us. And, probably been ground looped and wrecked 10 times along the way. And, we're just in the process of putting it back together. But we actually started with 2 projects that we had acquired separately. And to be honest, I don't even know how many of the parts from those 2 projects we're actually working with right now. Because, my contribution to this initiative, I'm not a mechanical person. I do like to fly them. And because I do want to fly it someday, I really don't want to work on it because I know my lack of skill in that area. I'll let others who are better at it than me do it. But, I kind of know where some of these parts are available, who some of the people are that can provide the expertise, and have been able to put together some trades that have really moved us along. So we had 2 fuselages that were in pretty rough shape. There's a gentleman in Texas who restores Stearman fuselages. So we were able to get one that was, basically straight out of a jig, very nicely finished off. And we gave him a couple of fuselages that needed a little TLC and got one that was ready to go. The first set of landing gear that we had, at first glance, it appeared serviceable. And we started taking it apart, or at least attempting to take it apart, and we couldn't get it. And Randy called in some favors from some old buddies at Delta to try to help take it apart. And Randy, I don't think they ever got that thing apart.
They couldn't get it apart either.
Yeah, with these big hydraulic machines, it was, they kind of threw their hands up at it too. But, again, through some creative trading, we were able to find a gentleman who had a not just serviceable, but a beautiful set of landing gear that we've got on there now. So those 2 big assets really helped accelerate our progress around restoration. Because then there was some wood repair that needed to happen in the wings. And from there, it's just a lot of very tedious covering work. Another area that was surprisingly frustrating was the seats. We did have some seats that came with it that somebody had attempted to start building from the drawings. But a lot of the mechanism that went into it, you look at it and you look, oh, seats, they look great. But when you start looking at what else needs to go in there, like the mechanism to raise and lower the seat and the inertial reels and places to mount the harness, just all of these little fittings that were required to actually take these things that look like perfectly good seats and put them in the airplane and make them usable. There was a ton of work, and none of it was complicated. All the mechanisms are very, very simple, but when you have to make it all, it was a lot of work to do. So I bet I bet overall, from a calendar duration perspective, it probably took a couple years to get both the front and the back cockpit seats to the point where we could install them in the airplane, go up and down like they're supposed to, mount the harnesses to them, and get them ready to actually sit in and perform the function that they need to perform.
Well, how is the timeline for this restoration going? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously the P-47 might be in 2028, but I would think the Stearman might be flying before that.
Yeah, it's always dangerous to call your shot on this
I know.
because, you know, the last 10% ends up taking 90% of the time. But things are looking very, very good. One of the things that really helped the Stearman project was the recent completion we had of our PT-19.
Right.
Because, you know, we had 3 projects going on. There were 3 separate teams working on those projects. And when you look at the work that needed to be done on the PT-19, you know, it was essentially a recover, repaint. And once that was all done, you had all these people that had like the perfect skill set that we needed on the Stearman. So, and thanks to Randy for building up that completely separate team. But once we got the fuselage to the point where it looks like it does on that bottom left picture, you know, that's when the PT-19 was done and we had all that team come over ready to start doing fabric work, ready to start rib stitching, ready to start painting. So, you know, the timing worked out pretty well on that because, as I said, there's a lot of fabric work to do on a Stearman.
How much fabric work is left to do on the Stearman?
Oh, to be honest, the wings, the center section, and the control surfaces are basically done through silver. There's probably a little bit of sanding and touch up that's left, but it's almost ready for color. And in fact, I think if we get the right weather days, we'll probably start painting those, you know, probably very, very soon. Randy, what do you think? Next few days on that?
Yeah, it's all temperature related, but the fuselage is the only thing left to cover, and they started cutting fabric for that on Saturday. The same guy.
And the fuselage is probably, you know, there's not the same degree of rib stitching that you have to do on the fuselage. So it's just going to be the covering and the taping. You know, I don't think that there's that much time left on the fuselage, to be honest. So, you know, just netting that out, we're probably going to be ordering the engine here in December. There's about a 3-month lead time on that. We're going to be putting the Jacobs engine on it. That's currently supported and maintained by Air Repair out of Cleveland, Mississippi. They've been a great source of advice and just help along the way. You know, Pete Jones there has built, I don't even know, a couple hundred Stearmans over his career. So I don't think there's anyone more with more expertise than he has, but we're going to put the Jacobs engine on there. And I think it's likely that this airplane could be flying by summer of 2025.
Wow.
I agree.
Yeah. And why the Jacobs?
Well, several reasons. First off, you know, you can find 5 different Stearman pilots and find 5 different opinions on what the best engine is. So, and the truth is I've flown pretty much all of them. I think the only one that I haven't flown is the Lycoming 225. I've flown the Continental 220, the Jacobs, the 300 Lycoming, and the 985 Pratt & Whitney. So, and they're all awesome airplanes and different pros and cons. I think the main reason that we wanted to go with the Jacobs is because we can pick up the phone and call Air Repair and, you know, get advice, get parts. The support is, you know, it's just like any other airplane almost, so or any other engine. So that's got a lot of benefits when you look at the operation that we're trying to, you know, employ this with rides and air shows and things like that. Operational availability is very, very important. And the other benefit is, you know, it's a 275 horsepower engine versus the stock 220, 225 engines. Hot days in Georgia, a little extra horsepower is helpful. And you get that extra horsepower with an airplane that still looks like a Stearman. You know, you start to get some of the bigger engines on a Stearman. Right. You know, they don't retain all of the looks. So it'll still have that nice stock appearance, very reliable, well-supported engine, a little extra horsepower. It checked a lot of boxes for us.
Very good. You mentioned paint. What paint scheme will this airplane take?
Yeah, that was a subject of a lot of debate. You know, you want to start some interesting discussions in the CAF, talk about painting airplanes. And where we landed was a very traditional navy yellow paint scheme with the red instrument trainer band. I think the pro of that is, number one, it's a very good looking paint scheme. I think, again, going back to our mission of selling rides and air shows, it has some nice curb appeal. The downside is it's a little common. There's a whole lot of Stearmans out there that have that paint scheme. But there was another thing that kind of, led us in that direction. Through some research, I mentioned that, this is several different airplanes, but if you look at the bureau number of the nameplate that we're restoring, somebody found not a picture of our airplane, but it was like 1 or 2 bureau numbers off. And that was the paint scheme that airplane had. So it might be a little bit of a stretch to say, well, if the airplane 2 bureau numbers off was painted this way, that's probably the way this one was painted too. But it's a good inference that we're making. And like I say, for all the other reasons, it'll be a good looking airplane in that navy yellow.
Well, and you mentioned putting in the rides program. That is a source of revenue for Airbase Georgia and a lot of CAF units and a lot of other museums and institutions as well. So, you're looking forward to hopping rides in the Stearman once it's up and running.
100%. One of my favorite things to do is give rides in a Stearman. I mean, not that any of these airplanes, they're all fun and unique in their own ways, but something about a biplane, I think, brings, in addition to the history, a little bit of nostalgia that will be appealing to people. It'll be a great way to tell the story of the Stearman, the Rosies that built it, the cadets that it trained. So, and then the other nice thing about the Stearman is, you start talking about the Mustang and the SBD. Just when you look at the complexity and the operating costs of those airplanes, the rides are beyond the impulse buy threshold for a lot of people. But a Stearman, a much more economical airplane, I think it will be a much more affordable way for people to connect with World War II aviation.
Randy mentioned earlier with the P-47 project, the support from Air Corps, Aircraft Spruce and Specialty. Are there any folks that have kind of helped bring the Stearman project along as well?
Yeah, I mean, there's been several. I mentioned dusters and sprayers. Now Air Corps has been helpful. Air Repair has certainly been helpful. Several local folks too. Not too far away in Williamson, Georgia, there is a shop called Barnstormer's Workshop. A gentleman there named Dave Harwell helped us out very early in the project. Came and looked at it, gave some advice. A very well-known person in the Stearman community and the RV community, Vic Syracuse, has a shop on the field. He was helpful. He knows he's got probably the most beautiful Stearman I've ever seen and probably that exists. And, he's a very meticulous person in terms of how he evaluates the airworthiness of airplanes. And he looked at our wings and just gave an overall opinion of some of the components that we had. So he was very helpful as well as we bootstrapped the project.
Yeah. Dealing with an airplane that's 80 years old, so technology was different in the 40s, 30s, and 40s than it is today. Have there been any, I don't want to say concessions, but any improvements to safety that might not be historically accurate, but make sense from operating in today's aviation environment?
There has been some. The obvious one is the avionics that we're going to put in the airplane. I mean, we'll have a modern intercom system, a modern radio, GPS, transponder, all the things that you need to have. So obviously that didn't exist in World War II. And some of that would be legally required to operate so close to the Hartsfield Airport in Atlanta. I think when you look at the rest of it though, aside from the engine modification, we did move the primer and have an electric starter on the airplane. You may have seen some of the old pictures of people hand cranking the Stearman on the outside. And the other fun part, even for the Stearmans that have electric starters, I'm sure every Stearman pilot can relate, getting into the airplane and buckling up and getting ready to fire it up and then realizing that you've failed to prime the engine because the primer is actually outside of the engine on the front. So you unbuckle, get out, go prime it, and then go do it all over again. But for this one, we're going to have a mock primer on the outside, so it retains the look of having the external primer, but we actually have a primer that we've installed in the dash. But other than that, yes, red line brakes. So that's another area where stock Stearmans, they work if you can get them adjusted, and sometimes they'll stay adjusted for a little while. But sometimes they'll just randomly lock up on you, and sometimes they just won't work very well at all. And especially in tail draggers, that's really not a desirable attribute for your brakes. So the Redline brakes, they're a modern disc brake. They feel really good. They don't lock up on you. There will be a nice improvement for the airplane. So that's another big one that will be a big contributor to the ability to operate this airplane safely and reliably.
Very good. Have you thought at all about operationally where the airplane will go? I mean, do you have sort of an idea of how far, what's your circle of influence as far as being able to fly this to air shows and aviation events?
That's actually a good question. I've certainly thought about it. I don't think that, formal discussions have happened, certainly nothing at the staff level. Stearman's a pretty slow airplane. You're not going to fly it in any weather. From my experience flying Stearman cross countries are kind of fun to look back on, but when you're in the middle of it, you just kind of want to get to where you're going and get out of the airplane. So I suspect it won't go too far out of the southeast, just from a logistics perspective, taking it to Oshkosh and things like that, like we do with the Mustang and the SBD and some of the faster airplanes. I don't know, maybe somebody will want to do that, but I probably won't be the first one to throw my hand up for that mission. It's just a lot of time to spend in an airplane.
Well, and then the good thing is that Atlanta is a major airline hub. So all of us around the country can always go to Atlanta and then come visit Airbase Georgia as well. That's
right. And to be honest, a lot of our traffic, comes in that way. We have a lot of airline guys that sometimes are on layovers. They'll come down and see us while they're out of town. We get actually a lot of international airline guys come down that way. And some people that just want to come and ride the airplanes too. So, it's you're going someplace in the southeast that's not Atlanta. A lot of times you'll be connecting through. So this might be something fun to do while you're here.
There you go. Well, in just the couple of minutes we have left, Richard has passed along a little piece of trivia that I did not know, and we'll pass it along. You guys may know, but anyway, everyone knows the name Richard Bong, right? Major Richard Bong, America's ace of aces in the P-38 in the Pacific. He actually bought 2 Stearmans to start a flying school toward the end of the Second World War. His plan was to teach young people to fly, including his younger brother. Unfortunately, he was lost in a P-80 crash in August of 1945. So he never got to fulfill his dream of starting that flight school. But I thought that was kind of an interesting little piece of trivia that I hadn't known before this.
That is interesting. I haven't known that. And one thing, it is just amazing when you look at the mission that the Stearman had and the progression from Stearman to T6 to the fighters. It's just, I've been continuously impressed with how well a Stearman trains you. I just remember first getting in the airplane, coming out of Cessnas and more tame tail draggers and getting in a Stearman. I'm like, wow, it really punishes you if you don't do things the right way. And, from that aspect, it's a pretty good trainer.
There you go.
Can you back up one picture?
Sure.
I want to brag about one of our members if I can.
Sure.
Not a great, let's say the one in the upper right corner is the senior gentleman working with the young lady. And then he's in that lower left. That's Malcolm Lelia. And Malcolm, I think he is now 84. He was a young little guy in London when the Germans were bombing London. And he survived. We have 2 people that were there during those times. And great guy. He's there working all the time. And he finally, after being in the U.S. forever and a day, just got his U.S. citizenship about 3 weeks ago. And we had a big hurrah for him on Saturday at our staff meeting. But great guy, and he's always working. And he sounds just great. And actually, I tease him a lot, but I love him. But I'll be showing people around that come in off the street and say, we got a lot of things back in the shop you might want to look at, because we do. Mm-hmm. And I said, so here's one of our warrior memory people, and he has a British accent still, and I tell everybody he's from Boston, and he gets a chuckle. But yeah, Malcolm was always over there helping.
Oh, congratulations, Malcolm.
I'm hoping he sees this.
I
Yeah, Malcolm
so
is
well.
a big part of the reason the airplane has made the progress that it has. He's just done a ton of work on it, along with many others, but Malcolm's been a big contributor.
He is. He's a cornerstone to it.
Excellent. Will there's an air show going on this weekend in your neck of the woods. Are you going to have the hangar open for people to come visit?
Yeah, it'll be open.
Okay.
We're actually going to have most of our airplanes down on the ramp, not necessarily the hot ramp.
Okay.
I think the Mustang's down in England, but the P-63, the Corsair, the SPD, the SPDs are going to be selling rides in T-34 and the PT-19.
I think all the rides airplanes will be flying rides. But yeah,
Excellent.
the hangar will be open. People can come in and see the progress and see the shop and all the good work that everybody there does.
Oh, excellent. Well, check it out this weekend, or even if you're not going to be in the Atlanta area, of course, you can find Airbase Georgia on Facebook. The Airbase Georgia is on the web. You can join, support, and definitely look forward to the 12 Planes of Christmas. You will see the announcement of that coming up probably in about a month or so from now. Amazingly, I don't know where 2024 has gone already, but
Yeah.
it's been a great year, and we appreciate y'all spending some time letting us know how you've been spending your spare time with the aircraft restoration projects at Airbase Georgia. You guys are doing a fantastic job. Just can't compliment you and all the volunteers enough for everything you're doing. In one of the videos, the P-47 was referred to as a national treasure. It certainly is, as all the aircraft, not only at Airbase Georgia, but all the CAF aircraft out there they're there to tell the story and remind us of what happened during World War II.
Absolutely.
So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us, and thanks everyone for sticking with us tonight on Warbird Tube. As always, if you have any suggestions for a show you'd like to see us do or a topic you'd like us to cover, just send Leah Block an email at media@cafhq.org. If you are a YouTube subscriber, make sure you click that bell icon, and you'll get notifications when our new episodes of Warbird Tube are posted. All right, and until next time, we'll look forward to seeing you actually next week, right here on Warbird Tube, brought to you by the Commemorative Air Force. I'm Steve Buss. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thanks.